Guys, where do I start? It's a big topic. And say in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So I hear that you guys already have been talking about Revelations, the first 11 chapters. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. I'm just going to ask you a quick questions to see if you've been paying attention. But Charlotte told me that you've already had two recaps, so I won't get into too much. And because we have a lot to get through, so where was John? Where did he see the revelations? The island of Patmos. Okay, good. And he was in the, when he saw it, he was in the, it's like the first sentence of the book. He was in the Spirit. What does it mean to be in the Spirit? Abu Dawood Lam'i actually explains that really well. But what does it mean to be in the Spirit? You know? Like you're elevated, like you're in another place. Like our fathers, the anchorites and the church fathers who used to kind of be hermits and be singing with the angels, they were in the Spirit in that time. So that's like, you're sort of no longer here, but you're so engaged in prayer, in a deep level of spirituality, that you're sort of like half here, half there. Okay? So yeah, it's a beautiful analogy, and a lot of the terminology he's used is kind of like worldly terminology, as you probably have been talking about. So we're going to go chapter by chapter, and please feel free to stop me and discuss or ask any questions as we go. I'll try to keep it simple, but any questions you have, I will direct to Abu Dawood Lam'i, because he is the person that I love when it comes to Revelations. He also has YouTube videos, chapter by chapter, in English. I actually watched it all in Arabic years ago. And then I was trying to translate it, and then today when I was looking, and yesterday I found them in English, so he's actually done them all in English as well. So we have a very rich, powerful source, this priest. He is like, oh my gosh, like if you don't know him, listen to his English lectures. He is a doctor by trade, so any allied health here, people or medicals, he's a doctor by trade, but he's like really highly spiritual. And he's the leader of, you guys, he came here for IC. So you all know him. He actually like dissects the book of Revelations, so I love him. And many years ago, I gave Siva a USB, do you remember? It was Abu Dawood Lam'i in Revelations 1 to like 20 something, whatever, but it was all in Arabic. So now it's there in English for you guys. I can send whoever's on the announcements, I can always send links of you. And then you guys can kind of like, Mina? Yeah. So once you kind of follow one link, you'll see all the others, and then you can just do that. Okay? And listen to it on your way to work, on your way to whatever it is, but it's really amazing. So we'll start with chapter 12. And I have some notes on some of the chapters by him, and others are more of like a conceptual kind of themes and ideas. So I'm just going to open up his notes. Yep. So the whole theme is about standing in being faithful and remaining faithful in spiritual battles. That's what chapter 12 to 17 talk about. The spiritual warfare. And then it talks about how can we stand, or like he depicts people or beasts and tells us like in a very descriptive analogy of what that might look like, but it's very hard to understand if we don't understand symbolism. So hopefully you guys are now across symbolism in the first 11 chapters, okay? And we'll come across a few, and if you guys remember any from the previous talks, feel free to share them. Okay, so who are these people? Who is this? In chapter 12. Has anybody ever read chapter 12? Yes, the ruler of the heavenlies, Archangel Michael. Yes. So whenever you see an angel with a sword and he looks like an archangel, it's probably Michael. Okay? So this is Archangel Michael fighting one of the beasts. Okay? So the main theme is Jesus wins and his people remain faithful. Chapter 12's themes are more like spiritual warfare and the battles between, the principalities of the darkness of this world, as somebody else says. I'm going to see later if you guys know who that is. And then Satan cast down. The cosmic conflict, as some non-Orthodox people call it, but it still kind of makes sense. Deception and victory. These are like the main ideas in chapter 12. Okay? Now, let me actually read a part of it. Does everybody have a Bible? Can we open to Revelations chapter 12? And then maybe get a mic around. Another mic. Can someone get me one more mic so we can read? So chapter 12 talks about the woman and the dragon. We're going to read first this part, so chapter 12, 1 to 6, and then we're going to get into the rest of it. So if there's a chapter that I'm going to read into depth, it's probably chapter 12 and 13. The rest I'll skim over because it's like pretty, descriptive, and we have like the main themes. But chapter 12 and 13 are very important. So who wants to start reading? Chapter 12, verse 1? Someone else? Damien? All right. You seem like you're ready with your... Did you get it? All right.
Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then I
How
heard...
many verses is that?
9.
That was 9.
Okay, we'll stop here. What was that number? 1,260. Okay, how many years is that? Calculate. Siva? 3.5. Well done. So 3.5 years. What period might that be referring to? Yes, who said that? Christ's ministry? Well done. Yep. So Abuna Dawood says it could be the time of Christ's ministry on the earth, which is pretty much the last 3.5 years of his life. So from 30 to 33 or whatever it is. Or, he says, another church father contemplation could be the time when the Antichrist is going to come and how long that's going to last for. Who knows? But it could be both. We don't know. But it's just symbolism, okay? So, and who is the woman with a child? Saint Mary. Very good. Abuna says it could be Saint Mary. He could be referring to Saint Mary. And who's the child? Jesus Christ. Yep. Perfect. Beautiful. Love that. I have that as one of them. Any other contemplations or what that symbol might be as the woman? Who else is a female? Yep. The church. And we are the people of the church. Okay. So God's people, Saint Mary and the church. Most likely, this is what it's talking about. Okay. This passage. So the child, Jesus Christ, the dragon is Satan, or the evil one. Satan tries to destroy Jesus, but fails. God protects his people. Now, keep going. We'll just read a little bit more of that. Thanks, Damien.
Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our God day and night, has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time.
Another contemplation, back to the 3.5 years here, it says it could be, so if it's the period of the service of Christ, they're saying that church is actually kept safe away from the evil in that time, as depicted by the wings of the angels in part of the passage, and not living with the world's ideation or lusts. And Abuna Dawood has this as a recurring theme, how like the world's evils are all conceptualized into lusts, worldly desires, being too busy and distracted from what actually matters, which is God himself and our relationship with him. All right, keep going. Or someone else can read. Up to you guys, sorry. From these boys.
the dragon saw they had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. What verse do you want me to read on to?
How many verses are there? Yeah, keep going.
Oh, the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times and half a time, from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Love that. He wanted to make war with all of her offspring. Okay? So, why are they depicting an eagle at the start? What does an eagle do that's special? Do you know? I didn't know this till I heard Abuna. What does he do? Okay, what does he, why? Yeah, okay. So the eagle life is depicted by Abuna and church fathers like the life of the saints. Eagles are used to protect, they protect their children, okay, from prey and from evil and teach them how to fly. This symbolizes the church. So the church will help us protect ourselves from whatever is outside the church. And it's saying that, Abuna was saying, we should always stick to the church because it's what's going to protect us when everything gets really tough. When life is full of pressures, full of sadness, full of attacks, the church is our only refuge. That's why John Chrysostom says it's a hospital for the sick. Whenever we are feeling overwhelmed or whatever is happening in our life that is going up and down, whenever we're thrown with big stones or curveballs, we come to the church and it will keep us safe. It also protects even before the warfare. It protects us from actually being attacked as well. It doesn't mean that people who come to church are not going to be attacked, but it's a bit of a protective thing as well. Because the evil one is more likely to attack very hard people who are away from church. But it can also be the other way, where if Siva is always coming to youth meeting and she loves, attending services and things like that, he's going to be wanting to get her in different ways. Who did he do that to in the Old Testament? Who did he totally Who? Job. That's what I'm thinking of. He totally all consumed him. He ruined his life. But that just happens to chosen people for a reason. And through God's grace, he helps equip them to actually overcome this battle. Okay? So I'm just going to read here what he said about the serpent. Abuna Dawood. He said, the serpent poured water out of his mouth onto the woman to drown her. What does that mean in that passage that you just read? The serpent poured water out of his mouth onto the woman to drown her. Any ideas? Yeah, but more everyday things. What might that look like every day? What does drowning mean? If I'm drowning, what does that mean? Yeah, separation from God. So it's the ideas and desires and lusts of the world. Remember that continuous theme, okay? Lust, desires, busyness, the worldly treasures. Like in the parable of the sower, the thorns that choke up the good seed? That's what he refers to here. The ideas, desires, and lusts of this world, they want, the evil one wants believers to be all consumed by them until they can't breathe, until they're drowning and it's all poured in them, and he wants to consume them with this world, that they have no time for God. They have no time, no capacity, they don't even see, and God doesn't mean anything. And that's that lukewarm kind of thing for Christians. It's a very tough kind of stage to be at spiritually. When you're Christian, you're born in the church, therefore you're going to be much more judged harshly than others who are not born in the church. Good luck to us, but then we're complacent. Good luck. That's being, that's what it means when he pours out the water of his mouth onto us to drown us, and we do drown. We do drown. The question is, are we going to get out of it? Are we going to come out of this state? Yeah? So he wants to consume all believers away from Christ. He wants to cause them to be carried away from the truth versus, what does the church provide us? Living water. Living water that we actually are going to forever be fulfilled with, and it's going to give us our eternal life. So are we going to accept living water, or are we going to accept them to pour all of this worldly water and drown us, and then we no longer can even see salvation? So this water must be, it's from the world. So in order for us to escape this, we must be separated from the world, along with its ideology and along with its beliefs. So in order to be separated from the world, it's that Saint Climacus has anybody read the Ladder of Divine Ascent? Or heard of it? It's the first step. What's the first step of that ladder, the divine ladder? And every time we go up, there's like devils trying to pull us down. That's the analogy that St. John gives. So the first step, it's detachment from the world. It's the first step. There's many other spiritual steps to climb. So the first step is separation, detached from the world, and being like, I am not of this world. Like St. Athanasius said in the creed when, Arius was against him. He goes, the world is against you, Athanasius. So Athanasius said, and I'm against the world. We are not of this world. We need to detach, and we need to identify as people of God, the nation of the cross, people of, we're Christian, not just by name, but by actions, behavior, everything we do. So the earth helped the woman. How the church can help us see the ideas of the world can be easily attacked. And so the church can help us see how destructive the world can be, but that's if we're in it. If we're outside the church, it's going to be very hard for us to see, accurately what's going on. All right, now, just questions on this, and then we'll move on to the next chapter. Why do you think Satan attacks God's people? So it's like the example I gave before. Why? So he'll definitely attack people outside. Sometimes he doesn't even need to try hard because they're just making the wrong choices. It's easy for evil to consume them. But why do you think Satan attacks God's people? People who read C.S. Lewis would know. Yeah. We're the biggest ones he needs to be in battle with. We are his biggest enemies. Why else? Because we need to win this warfare. So how does knowing Jesus already encourage us? Because Jesus already won. How does knowing that Jesus already won encourage us? How? You need to raise your hand if you're going to answer, please. And then I have to choose you. Okay? So how does knowing that Jesus already won encourage us? Anyone else? Yes. Yes, good. Legend. That's right. He descended into Hades through the cross, like Abuna says in the liturgy, and then he took up the souls of the righteous people. So he didn't only become victorious, but he actually took all the righteous, reopened the gates of paradise. He's done so much that gives us hope, and he also was human. So that teaches us that Christ has actually gone through the tribulations we go through. He's done everything, and he showed us the recipe to actually, win over. So can somebody read Revelation 12:11? And then that's just us finishing this chapter.
And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death.
Of it. So they overcame him, not just Jesus, but his people, through the blood of the Lamb, so through grace, through salvation, okay, and because of their righteous works, and knowing God and being close to him. So we're going to get that, this message is very clear throughout the book, but we actually have the recipe to overcome. Now, again, sorry, I just love chapter 12, so there's more to it. Yeah, what does this picture remind primary servants with? Excuse me, hands. Yes, Eliana. Yes, the armor of God, yes. Do we remember where that's written? That's how we can overcome. And it's so prescriptive. Like God's Bible just has everything in it, right? His word tells us exactly what we need to do to overcome. So there's something else, somewhere else in the Bible that talks about spiritual warfare. And he says, we do not wrestle. Can somebody open Ephesians 6:12? It's my favorite verse. It's going to describe the warfare, and then it will tell us before and after what we need to do to overcome this spiritual warfare. Who wrote the book of Ephesians? Who? Is that who? Paul, yes. Okay. Guys, we really need to get to know these things, and I want you to be witty with it. Yeah, discipleship. Who's coming to discipleship? Half of you. St. Paul, Ephesians, yes. Okay. All right. So Ephesians 6:12. Does anybody have it open? For we do not, Charlotte. But someone give her the mic.
For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places.
So we don't, our enemy is so powerful, it's not funny. And Abu Nadud Lam'a is so cute. He was just sitting there saying, guys, it's real power. They have real authority, like they're strong. And it's evil, and it's principalities of the darkness of this world, and authorities. We're not just fighting against flesh and blood. It's not just someone, it's actually an unfair battle, but we have God on our side, so it is fair, right? So these principalities of the darkness of if we have God on our side, we're definitely going to win. But in order to have God, it means we need to be equipped with His, like Aliana was saying before, armor. What is His armor? Read that passage, Ephesians 6, read that chapter. 10 to 18 will tell you what the armor is. Breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, helmet of protection. I don't even know what it is, but honestly, we gave it to our primary school kids as like little key rings, and they loved it. We have it written in our like t-shirts, but I just wish that servants can actually be living out that armor as well. We need to be living out what we're actually preaching. We can't just be hypocrites, and I'm the first one guilty, right? So the war in heaven, as we said at the start, that's just a bit of a summary of chapter 12. Where else do we hear about the spiritual warfare? We talked about Ephesians 6:12. But then Satan is called the accuser, but he's got his army with him. It's not just him, it's his army, yeah. But that's nothing going to phase us with that, because Jesus has his army, and he doesn't even need his own army. But anyway, he's got everything. Victory comes through the blood of the Lamb, like what we said when we finished the chapter. Faithful testimony, so our faith, pretty much. But is faith alone enough? Yes. No, that's Protestant. Faith and works, okay? So the Orthodox people believe that faith and works are both needed in order to make it to heaven. That's the recipe. And baptism, of course. So the blood of the Lamb, faithful testimony, perseverance, that is mentioned so many times. And those who wait, and He shall wipe away every tear. In many other places, He will talk about how people who actually persevere and not give up will be rewarded. Youth application. So stay close to God and protect yourself with the armor of God. And that's all written in Ephesians 6. If you guys have homework from today, it's reading Ephesians 6, 10 to 18. It will tell you all the armor of God and what you need to do to equip yourself with it and to actually win this warfare. Okay? All right, so that's chapter 12. Now, Revelation 13 talks about two beasts or more. But we're not going to read it, because I'll explain to you what it kind of talks about in terms of the beasts, and then I'll give you a bit of an explanation. So it talks about a beast from the sea at the start, okay? And that resembles a power or a worldly power that is opposing to God, okay? So there also then talks about a beast from the earth, and that refers to false religion and deception. Satan tries to imitate God's authority, and that's why we're saying he's got power, but it's limited. It talks about it, St. John actually describes it in Revelation as he's chained. It describes him as being chained, but there's going to be a little while where he goes unchained. So good luck for us when it comes to that. And I think, so there's a part in Revelations that says, there's nothing, so it's happening. So what is written in this book? It's happened, it is happening, and it is yet to come. So we can't just say that, oh, well, I'm going to wait for the Antichrist. When he comes, I'm going to be good and I'm not going to get the 666 and I'm going to be saved. What if I die tomorrow? So, like what I'm saying is, don't be all consumed by this Antichrist illusion. We're going to come to that later. But the mark of the beast is anything that's against God. So any religion, idea, heresy, like from Saint Athanasius' days, they were beasts and antichrists. An antichrist is anything that's not Christ. Okay, so just don't be all consumed by wording and analogies. But so I'm just going to explain two of the beasts in this chapter. So he talks about one that's riding out of the sea. It has 7 heads. Okay, can we maybe just read which one? 1 to 10. Can someone read that for us? Maybe a girl? See? Isabella? Okay, Isabella, go. So chapter 13, we'll just read 1 to 10.
Okay. Then oh, that's so loud. Sorry, guys.
It's all right.
It's a bit of a jump scare. The Father and Son, the Holy Spirit. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 thorns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and his great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
See what it just said about the saints? Here is the patience of the saints. It again talks about perseverance here. If we go back towards the start, he says, who can make war with the beast? What kind of personality trait is that? Someone else? I didn't say who. Of course, Archangel can just whip him one. That's fine. He can win him over. But I'm just saying, it's actually the beast that says, who can make war with me? What trait is that? What personality trait, huh? Egotistic. Who do you think you are, mate? You're a beast, but like God can just huff and buff and blow you away, like I say to the kids. Okay? So he thinks he's all that. And that's why Satan fell originally. So the original sin occurred because of ego. So be aware of your ego, everybody here. Because then you'll get crushed if you're egoistic. He says the last will be first and the first will be last. So be careful with your ego. If we're going to be talking like how the beast talks, then are we going to be counted towards the believers? Christ will actually say, I do not know you. Depart from me, you evildoers. That's what he'll say. So careful with the ego. It's a very, very, I guess, dangerous thing to have. Too much of an ego. All right, back to the beast. So the one riding out from the sea has 7 heads. So again, don't worry too much about the number here. But the heads, Abu Dawood describes as deceiving appearances. So people, you know how in the Bible he describes wolves in sheep's clothing. What does that mean? Hypocrisy, deception, heresy, like people, like the Antichrist will come as if he's Christ, like he'll actually pretend, and he'll deceive many people, especially the Jews that are waiting for the Messiah. And he's going to actually deceive people saying, oh, I was alive, but I died. It's going to come. We're going to come to that. But it's not just that, right? Some people, like friends, might look really harmless. And they might be like really good friends. But you got to be careful of the red flags. Toxic relationships, even family members. I don't know. We just have to be careful. and be wise when it comes to that. God tells us to be harmless as doves, but wise as serpents. So respect, be harmless, be a peacemaker, because blessed are the peacemakers, but you got to know who to keep your boundaries with, and you got to know when to have boundaries and when to set boundaries. So yeah, deceiving appearances is a big one. And be careful that you're not a deceiver as well. So I'm not saying be careful from the egoistic people and the people who pretend they're someone they're not, but are you that person? Am I that person? We have to be careful, right? And we have to be careful as servants that we don't deceive ourselves. Oh yeah, I'm a servant. I don't even fast properly. And I'm talking about myself, right? So am I a servant? I don't know. Might be deceiving. But be careful with all that stuff. So deceiving appearances, bad or evil ideas and desires, that's what he means by 7 heads. Okay, so it can be many sources of evil. And by heads, he means ideation or character or like deceiving personality. 10 horns, real evil power. So a horn depicts power. So if he's got 10, it means he's like really powerful. Like imagine, in those games, 10 times the power level. It's just like a depiction of a huge power, okay? Crowns and blasphemous name, okay? So when he talks about this beast having a crown or crowns and blasphemous names, he's talking about people who reject and curse God. And we can easily fall in that trap. For example, when we lose something we love, or a loved one, or like a job, or I don't know, like lose something major in our life. So some people curse God, and some people stop believing in God and become atheists because of things like that. But then they failed the test. They have not won the battle. They have given into the evil powers, and the evil powers won, okay? Because they ended up cursing God, or leaving God, or rejecting him. And that's a very sad ending. So make sure that even if we fall in despair, we have to regain hope, and we have to find our hope again, okay? Then he talks about a leopard, another beast. So this leopard, I'll just see if I wrote here. So the 10 horn, real power, crowns, rejecting and cursing God. Then the leopard. So the feet, he talks about having, this leopard has feet of a bear and mouth of a lion. And that refers to being sneaky, attacking, and strong, which is all works of the evil one, okay? Now, we're going to go into, I think the mark of the beast is also mentioned in chapter 13 and beyond. But does anybody know what that means? What is the mark of the beast? And it's again along the same line of thoughts. Yep. Yes. Well done. So following the same morals or morality that is against Christ or away from him. What else? I want to hear from others that I haven't heard from, please. You're not just pretty faces. I'd love to hear something. Someone else, or I'll start calling on you. Allah. Let's see. Dudu, what is the mark of the beast? Allah. Very good. Exactly. What does that mean? What does that mean, ya Joseph? I don't know. I didn't hear him. The devil. Okay. Yep. What else? What is the number of perfection or completion in the Bible? 7. So, yes. So, well, 7. It's. Yes. So, Abuna Dawood in Arabic says, na'is bit-talata. So, you can't be less lacking than that. So, short of perfection. Close to, well, tries to be, or appear to be perfect, but he's nowhere near. Okay? So it's actually, like falling short. That's what it resembles. So 666 is nothing but lacking, pretty much. Okay? Nothing but lacking. So the number of perfection is 7 in the Bible. The number of multitude or completion is 10. So because the number of perfection is 7 in the book of Revelations and the Bible in general, then 6 is lacking or short of. So it's like na'is bit-talata. That's how he describes it, but like lacking times 3, pretty much. I can't be more lacking than that, or short. So well done, because you got it. The mark of the beast, so 666 is just a conceptual idea of being away or deceiving, okay? So you're coming to deceive, or you're being deceived. So it's mentioned in Revelations 13, 16 to 18. And here we go through symbolism and themes of loyalty and worship. So if we've got the mark of the beast, who's our loyalty and worship to? Huh? Satan, the world, the beast. Okay? If we do not have the mark of the beast, who's our loyalty and worship with? God, Christ, the church. Yeah. We are. Yeah. Yep. But is everybody who's baptized going to enter the kingdom of heaven? Absolutely not, unfortunately. So we have to be careful. Remember, it's not faith alone, and it's not scripture alone. It is faith and works. Main issue: who do we belong to? It's a source of it's a bit of an identity. So the way St. John tries to explain it is, if you've got this mark, so if you've got your belonging, if you're, another person describes it in the Bible as treasures. Where your treasures are, your heart is also going to be. If we build treasures in the world, then we've got the mark of the beast, unfortunately, because we are of this world. If we're building treasures in heaven, then our heart will be, and where are we going to end up? Because our identity is with God. We are God's children. We are not of this world. So many years ago, maybe 15, I feel old, but when we went to camp many years ago, I don't know, put your hand up if you were in the camp, that the theme of it was in it, not of it. When we read Stranger, oh my God, there's no one. Oh. So yeah, at that time, we had beanies and they said in it, not of it. So we're in the world, but we're not of the world. I feel old. Guys, stop. All right. Now, so God wants our hearts and our minds and our worship. But does he need it? No, he doesn't need it. He wants it because he longs for us. He loves us. He created us to be with him forever. So, modern day idols. What are some things today that compete for our worship? This is really big, because these are the things that might be dressed as they're wolves in sheep's clothing. Things like social media. It's harm, we can't even imagine that it's going to cause half the harm that it causes, okay? Money, pride, fitting in, popularity. I've been hearing a few sad things about Coptic people recently in the news, getting involved in drugs, crime, and that's fine, because again, there's the Orthodox denominations and other Catholic and other Christians, but when you hear it's from your own people, it's really sad, okay? And it just shows that no one is, Satan or whatever, the evil one can consume or can pour into, remember that analogy of pouring evil into anybody, and can harm people from their environment. So someone used to say, show me your closest 5 friends and I'll show you who you are. Be careful who you're surrounding yourself with, because if I am going to leave my family, or if I'm going to leave my church, if I'm going to leave, I could still say I'm Christian, I'm close to God, but I don't need to confess. Who's giving you spiritual guidance? Guys, it's not enough to think that we can do it by ourselves, because I just talked to you about all the spiritual warfare. Do not think you can do it alone. You cannot. You need your community. You need your family support. You need yourself, as in through God's grace, your self-help. You need probably professional help, but you need your spiritual guidance and spiritual counselors as well. We really need to be equipped fully against this spiritual warfare, okay? But a lot of, I think, attacks are starting to really hit people's identity. And King Solomon says, there's nothing new under the sun. These are the same tricks that he used to do ages ago, the evil one, but they come in different ways and shapes and forms and waves and different evils. So make sure that we're ready and we're careful about what the red flags are around us. Do we have any red flags? Be careful, okay? Another thing, okay? I watched a movie recently. If anybody finds out what this movie is, I'll actually laugh about it. Very recent, okay? It talks about, Ya Habibi, I didn't ask the question yet. Arhamni. It talks about how a girl's bag or belt or shoes identifies who she is. So if I'm wearing Dior, that's exactly word for word as to where I heard this. Like a Dior or Chanel or Louis or whatever, it will define who I am. But, you know, it's just, and then the other person goes, what if you can't afford a $3,000 bag? And then this other person said to her, have you heard of Christmas? So I'm going to wait for Christmas presents, or I'm going to wait to get a gift for this amount, for expectation of this monetary figure to define who I am. What is that? That is one of the, again, the, Does anybody know what that's called? Who? What is it called, Joseph? I hope not. Because you know what? These things existed back in like Gen Y. I feel old. I'm Gen Y, but these things existed. We always had designer stuff. Who cares? So it's not of this generation, no. It's not. It's becoming more popular, but it's nothing new. Designers things always existed, but it's becoming more appealing through social media, okay? And through idols that are not proper. You're starting, people's idols, like my idol was like Pope Shenouda. Who was yours? Me? You do, we. I hope that's not true. But anyway, see, this is what I mean, okay, guys? Like, stick to the idols of the church. That's going to get you to the right recipe. If you are looking at different idols around here and around the world, then you're going to end up in disaster, okay? So, again, what is that called when you always want luxurious thing? I just gave you guys the keyword. Materialistic things. First of all, I am sorry, but if you're a person like that, I'm sorry, I'm just going to give it how it is. Basil, no, I have no filter. You're shallow. You are shallow. If all you're looking for is superficial things like that, you do not know the meaning of life, okay? And the Bible actually talks about that as luxurious living. Search it up. I'm not saying it's okay to get a gift. Guys, I'm not being an extremist. Well, I am sort of. But it's okay to get like a luxurious gift once in a lifetime. My first bag was like at 30, okay? But anyway, it means nothing to me. So, and it was actually a push-out present when I had Levi or Malachi, one of them. Anyway, okay. But still, I just thought, what else could have I done with this? Anyways, so that's just my personality. But as long as it doesn't come a thing for you, luxurious living as a concept is an evil, evil, evil notion. And it talks about St. John in the ladder of a divine ascent. Part of the detachment of the world is not being in luxurious living. And one of even those other ladders, the spiritual ladders that we have to let go of, is even when you indulge in the food. Say, for example, he says like you should never eat till you're full. It's another concept of asceticism. So if I'm going to go to Korean barbecue and stuff my face, and then go home and like have major tummy gut problems, that's like overindulging. So luxurious living, don't think I'm just talking about girls here. I'm talking about girls, boys, different kind of things, food, lifestyle. Like I have this other, one of my patients or clients, I'll call him a client. I've been seeing him, he's in his 20s, he's like 28, Matthew. He's 28, and he comes to every session with a different like bag. That's a man bag, it's so feminine. And it's a designer one. And I once asked him, I'm like, is that real? Because he has financial stress every time he sees me. I'm like, okay, so يعني في history of dealing. So he's got a history of like dealing, okay? I'm like, I thought you've let go of that world. Like, what's happened? Like, are you back? How are you making this money? Oh, it's from my past life. طب alhamdulillah, why are you holding on to it? Why are you still wearing it? Anyway, he can still wear it, it's fine. I'm just saying. So, again, these things do not define who you are. You need to learn to let go of these conceptions and look at life from a bigger picture. Okay? Moving on. Sorry if I carried on a tangent. Revelation 14. The Lamb wins. Okay? So, in this chapter, we see three angels. So the Lamb is Jesus. We come across the number 144,000. And I have many girls here who are going to tell us what this number means. Get ready, Charlotte and Ziva. Enjoy. And Aliana. All right. So this number has come up a couple of times in the book of Revelations. And it is a symbolic number that means something. Does anybody else besides Charlotte, Joy, Aliana, and Ziva know what this number means? These girls sit with me in the Apocalypse night. Every year, and we go through the book and we write it down and we mark things on on our Pascha book. Abu Ghalamsis, yes, Apocalypse 9. So we sit together and we write like meanings, and this is one of the old ones. So I'll let them explain it. Mina, do you know? What is it? 12 times 10 is 1,200. Come. Close. I'll get one of the girls to explain it. Siva, with a mic, explain it. You can do it. Siva has the most colorful, amazing notes. You be confident. No, I want you to. Siva. You know it, Siva.
Tribes? 12
Yes.
priests?
Mafish priests. Yes. Times 1,000. 1,000.
You said
144,000. So what's the maths? What times what times what equals 144,000?
12 tribes times 12
Listening?
disciples times 100 times 1,000
Yeah.
equals this number.
Yeah, so 12 tribes of Israel, Old Testament, times 12 disciples, New Testament, times 1,000. What did we say the number 1,000 depicts? Or 10? 7 is perfect. Yep. So 1,000 is a multitude, all right? So a multitude of people from the Old and the New Testament will enter the kingdom of heaven. Who thinks 144,000 people will be saved? It's not the Jews, Jehovah's Witnesses. They do not do blood transfusions, and they believe that only 144,000 people from Jehovah's Witnesses will be saved. And they have been saved, and they've already chosen. That's what they believe, yeah. That's why they don't do blood transfusions, because they're saying we are the chosen people. We are one of the 144,000, so we have to be perfect or we can't transfuse our blood. They also think that Jesus is Archangel Michael. They're very confused. So they're stuffed. It's a cult, okay? So anyway, this is what it means when you just take scripture out of context. So what? They can come and persecute me, it's fine. I'm just saying the truth. I am entitled to say the truth. I am against the world. Okay, so 144,000, okay, is God's people from the Old and the New Testament. Which hymn do we love that talks about a multitude of people from the Old and the New without definition that will be saved? Which hymn? Eh? La la Baba, that's liturgy. Which hymn talks about, and it's actually a verse. It's actually a verse from Revelations. Yes, of all nations, of all tribes, of all tongues. Okay, before the throne stands, myriads of myriads. So, do not judge. And I'm not judging Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm just saying, according to what we know, this is heresy. And I can say that it's heresy. Okay? So, now, back to 144,000, we know that it's a symbolic number depicting multitudes and myriads of people from the Old and the New will enter the kingdom of God. God knows the people personally. That's why there's a specific number. And, of course, they depict Old and New. Okay? Heaven worships Jesus victoriously. It depicts that in this chapter. It talks about victory and the angels' messages. And the themes of these messages are worship God, Babylon will fall. What's Babylon? What does that remind us of in the Old Testament? Helwa, Susi, the kingdom of the devil. All right, Babylon, the evil city. The Babylonians were not believers of Christ. Yeah? We know that, yeah? Okay. And endure faithfully. And it's telling us, or it's trying to teach us the theme of endurance as per like the other chapters. Endurance, perseverance, all of that. Right. The key focus of this chapter is faithfulness in difficult times. All right. I can see you 12s here. Hi, Jaden. Good luck. So, key focus is faithfulness in difficult times. And that is really what we want to do. Oi, Matthew, no more distractions. So, faithfulness in difficult times talks about how we need to be steadfast in the faith, not give up hope, not give up faith when things go wrong. We always have to run back to our mother home, which is the church and our faith. Okay? Chapter 15 and 16, I'm going to start going quickly because I want to finish early. So, not late. So chapter 15 and 16 talks about worship before judgment and the bowls. So God is holy and just some of the themes here. God is holy and just. Heaven worships before judgment comes. Okay? God's justice is perfect. Remember, he has to be just. So there has to be consequences for evil. And he tells us from day one, the wages of sin is death. And the next part in chapter 16 is actually very similar to another passage we read in the Old Testament. I want you guys to kind of pay attention and tell me which part of the Old Testament this reminds you of, okay? So there's 7 bowls that show God's judgment on evil. Sin has consequences, so that's just the notion and the concept. God is patient but also righteous and just, so the consequences have to take place. And remember, we are fighting against principalities and authorities of the evil darkness of this world, okay? And so they also have a part to play in what is about to come. So there's 7 bowls. Number 1, sores afflict those who accepted the mark of the beast. Number 2, sea burns to blood and all the sea creatures die. Number 3, rivers turn to blood. Number 4, mankind is scorched by the sun and blasphemes God. So this is where then it tells you, like, they will forsake him. And we go through all of that so God can actually know who is going to be persevering, like who's going to last, who's not going to curse him. That's the whole point of the battle between evil and goodness. Who's going to make it? Who's going to give up? Okay, so keep going. After the scorched one, number 5, the beast's seat of government is afflicted. The Euphrates is dried up, and the world armies gather to Armageddon, so war here, okay? And again, there's wars all the time. So there's actually like a really cool reel by, who's that bishop? Mamari, yes. That got like stabbed, that him, yeah. So there's a cool reel by him. He actually used to be Orthodox, but I don't know, they don't call him Orthodox anymore, but he loves Pope Kyrillos, and he's a pretty like spiritual father. So they call him, but from, I think he's like, I don't know what denomination he's with now. But anyway, he talks about Armageddon, and he says how all of these are signs to what is to come. But it's not new. War existed from a long time ago. There's nothing new under the sun. These things, he says, I am he who was. Who says that? I am he who was, he who is, and who is to come again. Who says that? God. Yes, Jesus, the Lamb. So all of these things, all these wars have happened, are happening, and will continue to happen. All right, yes, there is some wars that are going to be more like grounding and bigger, but at the end of the day, our time is up when we die. Then it's going to be eternal life or eternal condemnation. That's when there's no more chances. Every breath we take now is a chance. So all these things want to remind us of current tribulations that we're going through. Let's not get like too bucked down on what is to come, because we might not be there for that. Okay? Last one, the earth is utterly shaken. What does that remind you of? All of these? Yes. Huh? Moses and what? The plagues. Yes. Okay? Again, this has happened, it will happen, and it is happening in different ways. So even from the Old Testament, we saw the plagues. But was that enough for people to believe? People were still cursing. And even though God led the people of Egypt miraculously out of Egypt, they still worshipped idols after everything. So again, some people are just, and that's why it's only fair for people to go to heaven, or like to make it to paradise, or not to make it, because God wouldn't be just if he allowed others to enter. Okay? Right. So God is patient, but is also righteous and just. And then the last chapter talks about Babylon the Great. Babylon represents corruption and rebellion against God. That's what it's always depicted in the past, in the Old Testament. Corruption and rebellion against God. The world can look attractive, but lead away people from God. We have to be careful that we're not strayed away and we're not distracted. And like we said, all these things like luxurious living or indulgence or attachment to the world, because like we've got a really good job, or we've got an amazing family, or, you know, God has given us so many blessings. uh-oh, be careful, because if these blessings are going to make you attached to the world, good luck. Because your eternity is going to be gone. Again, it's just like a little time worth living here. It's just a test. In conception to forever, it's actually nothing. So be careful and do not, lose sight of what really matters, which is our eternity. That's what really matters. And later, when you have a family, it's going to be really hard because you're not only responsible for your own eternity, you're responsible for your spouse's eternity, your husband, and your children's. Ouch. So you've got to be careful that you're solid, you have a solid foundation in terms of your relationship with God. Like when I was growing up, we used to pray the Bible and Agbia with my dad. It's so hard for me to carry that tradition on with my kids now because I work, it's just hard. But I can see the blessings in my life when we pray as a family. I can see the blessings. And there's so many things I want to do, but I don't have time to do. So guys, be careful with time. Make sure you're really working hard on yourself now because you're single. Work hard on yourself because when you get married, you're going to have less time. And be careful and choose the right person. Well, through God. That's what I mean by spiritual counsel. Be careful because partner selection is really important. Make sure you do that couple course that's in the diocese because all of these things can actually stray you away from God. There's a lot of couples that do the couple course in the diocese and they break up. But that's not bad because it's better than a divorce. Okay? So be careful. The world can look attractive but lead away from God. Living faithfully today. How can we stay faithful? Okay? So keep around you those who will bring you closer to Christ. Draw to him. And he says, draw to me and I will draw near to you. You guys have to take the first step. Know God's word. Familiarize yourself with the Bible. Learn things off by heart. Surround yourself with sermons, spiritual songs, blessings. The more you pour into yourself, the more blessings will come out. Out of the goodness of the heart, the mouth speaks. If the heart is dark, then the mouth is going to speak. And I keep trying to teach my kids that. Whatever you put in, it's going to come out. If it's rubbish, if you're listening to rubbish, if you're watching rubbish, if you're going to not spend time with God, then nothing's going to come out of you. And when it comes to hardship and warfare, you're the first one who's going to break without even realizing it. Careful, don't think you're going to be strong. Like St. Peter said, I'm going to wash your head and your legs and your feet and I will never betray you. He betrayed him 3 times. So even the disciples themselves were not strong. They were egoistic. We have examples everywhere, even within the apostles, that tell us what personality traits to look out for. Look out for each other, draw each other closer to God, and be careful from these world's evil things. Choose godly friendships, like we said, and relationships. Stand firm under pressure. Remember, Jesus already won. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Deception is real, evil is real. He kept saying that, Abuna, in the sermon. But our God is real. And our saints are real. And they're the people who should be our idols. Knowing the life of the saints is so powerful because it gives us literal, daily living people who have made it. So please, guys, don't ever think that, saints are just they're perfect. No, they're not. They're actual everyday people. I've been doing a lot of work with even people who kind of are in the solitude, they're, living a solitary life. And even they have a lot of issues. If you even read some of the church fathers, a lot of them had a lot of problems within the monastic setting. So whether you're married, whether you're a monk, whether you choose to be traveling and serving for the rest of your life and not be in a relationship, whether you choose to be a parent, you're always going to have spiritual warfare. You're always going to be challenged. You're always going to be persecuted against. Be careful because it's a personality trait that God is trying to get you to kind of manifest so you don't break in temptation and all of that, okay? That's all for me. Any questions, please ask, but I might not be able to answer. Glory be to God forever. Read it for me. Mhm.
It's talking about Babylon, and it says, I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I